When people told themselves of past with stories, foretold their secrets with stories, foretelling the future with stories. The best place by a fire is kept for the storyteller.
A waste of good milk. We could drink that. In case you haven't noticed, the cellar is growing quite empty.
Spring and warm breezes will be here soon enough, and then there will be more strawberries than we could possibly eat. In the meantime, we wouldn't want our house brownie to go hungry.
The house brownie! It's more important for the brownie to eat than us, isn't it?
If we eat wisely, we won't go hungry. But if our brownie were to flee in search of better lodging, I dare say you'd sorely miss her.
Miss her? I've never even seen her before. As far as I know, the brownie of yours might not exist.
Oh? Who do you suppose sweeps the dust from the window ledges and picks up my socks and keeps the gremlins at bay? We'd be in a sorry state indeed without our brownie.
I'd take a small hive of gremlins over no milk.
Indeed? Tell me, have you ever heard the story of Lorelai?
Lorelai? Is that a Greek myth?
Not quite. Once upon a time, in old Germania, there was an old town called Wachara, which sat on the banks of the Rhine River. Wanderers and pilgrims used to speak of Wachara in awe tones, for it seemed to all who passed through it like a fairy town. Everyone in Wachara was content. Indeed, most were even happy, and all were quite wealthy. The townsfolk wore gold the way we wore wool, woven in their clothes. They wore it around their necks. They wore it in their hair. They wore it on their feet. They traded with neighboring towns for food and clothes. And so they never knew the specter of starvation. Their gold came from the river. Their gold, in fact, came from Lorelai, who was the lady of the river, daughter of Father Rhine. Every day, her songs echoed from the great bluff that bore her name, drifting through the town and cheering up the women who worked at the looms and the men who reaped in the nearby fields. Lorelai is at work, they told each other when her clarion song began at noon. The townsfolk did not know that the precious nature of Lorelai's work was, but they knew that it was she who bought them their gold. Every once in a while, when the fishing boats were plying the waters of the great river, Lorelai rose up from the waves and graced one of the fishermen with the bracelet or ring of breathtaking design too, delicate and fine to be the work of a human. The men who were given these gold pieces were dubbed Lorelai's husband by the townsfolk, and indeed, the ring was a promise. Come the summer solstice, the townspeople held a great pageant that marched through the streets and ended at the banks of the river. Lorelai's husband, wherever he was that year, was then led into the water, where Lorelai waited for him, with a mysterious smile on her otherworldly face. Lorelai took the man in her arms, and the two of them disappeared into the water. The man was never seen again. The townsfolk told stories of Lorelai's glittering palace under the river, of how each year Lorelai's husband became the king of the palace, and lived in sublime comfort and pleasure, until the husband was called by Father Rhine to fight in his endless war against the sky gods. They spoke of how Lorelai sang her sorrow at each departure. In winter, her daily songs made the townsfolk shiver more than the snow ever could, and of how she could not bear the sound of her voice's echo through the empty palace. And so she spun a new ring and graced it upon a new man. They spoke of how Lorelai always hoped that her father would spare this new husband. But the truth is that these were all simple stories that the townsfolk told each other. None of them knew precisely what happened after Lorelai and her husband disappeared into the river of the solstice. None of the villagers knew the truth, and they were all happy and rich. As all things go, this Eden could not last. It ended the year that Lorelai chose the wrong man to be her husband. It ended the year that Lorelai chose Henrich. You see, the problem with Henrich was a girl named Sofia. When they were both 16, Henrich promised to love Sofia until his dying breath, and Sofia, hidden in the shadows of oak trees, swore never to leave Henrich's side. They had told no one of their vows, afraid as they were of their family's reactions. Sofia was the daughter of forest witches, and Heinrich's family, like all of the Wachara townsfolk, were weary of the forest. On the eve of the midsummer solstice, Heinrich and Sofia met by moonlight to concoct a plan. They whispered to each other. They held each other's hands. They kissed. Then they broke away from each other to face the coming day. They both followed the plan perfectly. Sofia trailed the pageant as it bore Heinrich to the river. She watched as he stepped into Lorelai's arms. She lingered as the townspeople flocked back to Wachara's town square, where a bonfire and barrels of ale and tables of sweets waited for them. Sofia stepped down to the water. Sofia was not a particularly good witch, despite her upbringing. She could not trick foxes or read the future in the face of the moon, or hear the sleepy murmurs of trees. But she did know how to convince a fish to let her borrow its lungs for an hour. And this was all that she needed to know.
Little handsome fish, I have a deal for you. If you let me borrow your air for an hour or two, I'll paint your scales in a pure gold, so that all the other fish will gasp at the sight of you.
With the fish's gills curving on her neck, Sofia dived into the Rhine, and she swam to find her love. She swam to find Lorelai, to bargain with her for Heinrich's life. She swam to find out if the townfolk's stories were true. The tale of Lorelai's palace. Yes, that story was true. Deep under the waters of the Rhine. Deeper than any of the townspeople dared to venture. The palace gleamed like a crown made of ice and gold. The story of the sublime luxury of Lorelai's palace? This story, Sofia had a harder time verifying. The palace was certainly stately and glamorous, but it was too quiet and lonely to truly be comfortable. As she swam through its hallways and searched its chambers, she found it empty, save for drifting schools of fish. Was Lorelai's husband called to arms by Father Rhine? This story, Sofia discovered, was absolutely false. For when she finally came upon Lorelai, her bargaining words at the ready on the tip of her tongue, she learned the truth about Lorelai. Sofia's words evaporated in her throat. There could be no bargaining, because Heinrich, who had followed Lorelai down below and waited for Sofia to arrive, was already dead. This was a true story. Lorelai killed her husbands when she brought them down to her palace on the summer solstice. Perhaps Lorelai heard Sofia's wail of misery, or perhaps she didn't. She certainly paid no heed as Sofia fled the palace, the river, the banks, stumbling dumbly into the town of Wachara. Lorelai paid no heed as Sofia screamed a halt to the townsfolk's drunken celebrations around the bonfire. Nor did she hear as Sofia told them the truth of what she had seen deep in the waters of the Rhine. She didn't hear as they debated among themselves the merits of trusting a witch, affiliated in their arguments until Sofia's furious words and their drinks got the better of them, heating up their blood and loosening their tongues. However, Lorelai did hear when they marched to the banks of the river in a roaring, jingling crowd, and demanded to speak with her. "Listen, Lorelai! There should be no more husbands for you unless you prove this witch to be a liar!"
There shall be no more husbands for you if you promise our men only death. We will not stand for our men to be killed like this.
Lorelai heard this, And she was not amused. She rose from the waters in a maelstrom.
You spiteful little creatures! How do you think I spend my gold? It does not appear out of thin air. Bone and blood, water and stone. The spells to create gold do not come cheaply. So you covet my gold but refuse my price? Then there shall be no more gold for you. No more gold. No more wealth. No more happiness. So be it!
Lorelai dove into the angry, churning waters, seeking deep, deeper, deepest, until no hint of her shadow could be seen. Not then, not now, and not any time in between. Without Lorelai, the gold which had previously littered the banks near the town petered out until it glittered only in the town folks' memories. To say the least, the people of Wachara no longer wear gold in their hair and around their necks.
It seems like a bit of an overreaction from Lorelai. You can't blame them for being a bit upset over the deaths.
Indeed not. But I have to think that back when they originally made the deal with Lorelai, they understood the terms. So, did the people of Wachara simply forget the terms in the drift of time? Or did they willingly erase it from their history? In any case, I don't have either of those excuses. I remember my contract with our little brownie.
Oh, fine. You've made your point. Although I'm still not convinced that brownie of yours even exists. I'll believe it when I snuff it from my own two nostrils.
Just don't wait too long to believe it.